Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited because today I am sharing my story with you. I was asked to be a part of a really beautiful collaborative book where I am entering in my chapter and telling my story. And I decided to speak my story and then have it transcribed. So this podcast episode is the story that I tell for the Soul Success book, and I'm really excited to share it with you. It's only about 15 minutes, and I truly think it will inspire you to ask for bigger things in your life and really tap into what's possible for you. So without further ado, take a listen to the story. Have you ever had an experience in your life where you can look back with your 2020 vision and see the power and the transformation it created, but in the moment, it felt like a total shitstorm? Well, this is exactly what it felt like when I was going through my second divorce at age 30. I found myself having all of these similar feelings that I felt when I was married for the first time when I was 19. Feelings like, I just want more. I wish he would pay attention to me. I wish that he knew what I needed. And it took another 10 years before I realized that that was actually my responsibility. But I wouldn't realize it was my responsibility without kicking and screaming. Let me paint the picture for you. I had a good friend named Sarah who really was a straight shooter. She would say it like it was, and I appreciated that about her. But in this one instance, when I went over to her house complaining about my husband yet again, I didn't know that she would drop the truth bomb of all truth bombs on me. So I was going along my merry way, complaining, talking about how he wasn't meeting my needs and he this and he that. And she looked me square in the eyes and said, "What if this was actually about you?" And I was so taken aback because I wanted her to just feel bad for me because I was perfectly playing the victim. Instead of feeling bad for me, she asked me to rise. And like I said, I didn't do it without kicking and screaming. What I did was get a little mad and think, well, that's a shitty friend thing to say. I ended up going home, and there was some part of me that just was ready to tell a different story. So as this truth, what if it is really about you, sunk in, I couldn't not see it anymore. So in order to prove it wrong, I decided that we needed to go to couples counseling so that the counselor could tell my husband what he was doing wrong. Isn't that why everybody goes to couples counseling? I called the therapist and he suggested that we come in for an assessment to see if we could go into his group therapy session with other couples. So I told my husband, we need to go to therapy. I'm not happy. I keep going through all these same things over and over again. I always want more. And he reluctantly went, probably with the same belief that the therapist was going to tell me what was wrong with me that I had. We went to see Lewis Quimby to see if we were a good fit for his group couples therapy. And I'll give you a hint and tell you we were not a good fit. As we were sitting there being assessed by this 70-year-old man who had been a family and relationship therapist for over 30 years, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. I was eager to see the truth, and my husband at the time was eager to get the hell out of there. We started talking about what was going on in our relationship, and Lewis was so powerful and very intimidating that everything I said, I felt like came from this squeaky voice in me. Then Lewis looked my husband square in the eyes and said, You know you're with a really independent woman, right? And he said, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And Lewis said, let me ask you, how much would she get if you died, how much would she get from your life insurance? And he said, I don't know, I think maybe $200,000. And he said, okay, so you know she'd be fine, right? She'd be fine without you. And it was this really fascinating moment because as I look back, I think he was giving us each back our power. We were so locked in this codependent state of, if he's not okay, I'm not okay. And if she's not okay, I'm not okay. And in that moment, it zapped us with a little bit of reality. We are two separate people. There was a lot more to unlock, though. At the end of the session, Lewis said, you're welcome to come to couples group therapy on Wednesdays at 5:30. And my husband at the time said, no thanks. And my heart sank in that moment. Oh, he's not going to do it. That means we can't do it. And Lewis had a feeling this was what was happening with me because he looked at me and said, you can come alone. And my heart sank even more because I knew that that was true. We walked out to the car. Everything felt like a blur at this point. I knew that I was about to make the biggest decision of my life. On the ride home, I sort of begged him to stay. I begged him to go with me. I begged him for this not to be our reality. And when he dug his heels in even more and said he didn't think he needed to go and he didn't understand why I thought we needed to go, I put my head on the car window, sobbing, mourning the loss of the woman who didn't ask for her needs, mourning the loss of the woman who would pick the same type of man again and again, not fully valuing her worth, and mourning the loss of what would be this marriage. I did go to couples group therapy. For the next 6 months, every Wednesday at 5:30, I went to this dark room where there were other couples all fighting for their relationship. I went alone to couples group therapy. And what happened over the next 6 months would be the most powerful schooling in self-love, in relationships, and in how to have a successful life. I got so much more than I bargained for. A couple of the key things I took away was one, that I had no idea how to ask for my needs. It was in the first or second session when Lewis asked me, how did you learn to ask for your needs? And it took me 2 months to answer that question. And when I finally did, it unlocked so much truth around why I wasn't ever getting my needs met, why I wasn't playing bigger in my life, because I had a belief that I should not ask for my needs. Because if I did, that was selfish. And not only that, I was taking away from other people if I did. Amazing and also very painful to have these types of realizations. But I couldn't not see it as truth once it was lifted to the surface. There was a lot of moments like this over that next 6 months. What happened is that I owned my power. I came home to the truth of who I really am, and I learned some amazing skills. I toyed with the idea of staying in the marriage. It was sort of the last hurrah of the 6 months, was deciding, what am I going to do? And I remember going home to my husband at the time, practicing the things I had learned. It became my playground to try out these new techniques. What if I did just ask for what I needed? What if I made a list of requirements? What if I asked him to grow with me? I exhausted every single resource and tool I had until it was clear that I couldn't learn anymore in this marriage. And that's when I decided I would leave. At the time, my daughter, Becca, was 9 years old, and I decided that for her sake, I needed to show her what it looked like to be a strong woman who actually got her needs met and was willing to ask for what she wants in life. We ended up moving to Portland, Oregon later that year, and I began an adventure of practicing asking for my needs with real men. I knew that I couldn't just dive into a new relationship, that I would, in a sense, perform the same cycles over and over again and get caught up in that old way. So I dated. I dated for 4 years. And every single date I went on, I held myself to the standards of which I desired in a partner. And it was freaking hysterical. I'll tell you that. They did not know what was coming. They had no idea what to expect, or rather to expect a woman who was 32, good looking, smart, capable, but that they couldn't pull the wool over her eyes, and they had to treat her with dignity and respect. There was one guy who asked me out. We went out and had a nice time, and then he asked me out again, and he didn't respond. He didn't reply when he said he would. And I told him, if you stand me up and you don't do what you're going to say, I won't date you anymore. And it was like he thought I was kidding or something. The next time we were supposed to go out, he did the same thing. And I told him, we're not going to date anymore. And he was so heartbroken. He acted like this was the biggest, tragedy of his life. And I thought, wow, this is what's available for most women. When we don't ask for what we need, when we don't show up for ourselves, when we don't hold ourselves to the standard in which we desire in other people, this is what's available. Life is not guaranteed to give you what you want. And that became very clear. So I strengthened the muscle of asking for what I wanted in life. This is the single most powerful thing I have ever done. I can look back now from where I sit, this story that I'm telling you being over 12 years ago. After the 4 years of being single, I met my third husband, Mr. Jonathan Mark Van, and he is gold. He is amazing. He actually lives up to what I wanted, because from the get-go, I said what I wanted. And what I never would have known is that these lessons and this ability to really stand in my truth and know who I am at the core and really tap into what I want out of my life would set me on a mission to help other people do the same thing. I've created my own online coaching business where I help women all over the world own their power, speak their truth, and make really good money doing what they love. And I look back at this experience in that dark therapy office and see that it was the spark, it was the catalyst for this change to have a healthy relationship, to have another shot at having a family, to break free from the stigma of being a young, educated, single mother. That I get to choose my life and I get to help other people do the same thing. It's, again, the hindsight is 2020. But I want to ask you, what would your life be like if you allowed yourself to truly ask for what you want, to step in to that powerful version of yourself and release the need to please other people, release the need for all your relationships to stay the same, Because what I know is true is that relationships will not stay the same. And if they are, then you're not growing. I want you to take from this the knowing that you are so incredibly valuable, that you and your voice and your ability to really dive into what your stories are and to be able to ask for what you really want in life is the most powerful thing you can do. And you become a role model for other people when you do this. There is so much more possible than we could ever imagine. And this story is just a small glimpse into that. When one woman takes it upon herself to take responsibility for her life and choose a new path. It's all possible. And I don't believe the sky is the limit. I believe we are our own limits. And that when we expand, we give opportunity for others.
Thank you so much for listening.
I would love to know if that touched you, if you resonate in any way. Feel free to come on over to Instagram at the Jaya Rose or the She Rise podcast and send me a message. Let me know. I also want to let you know that this is going into my impactful storytelling program and that this is the last week to enroll in the program. And if you are somebody who is interested in mastering the art of storytelling, creating your brand story and being able to speak about what you do in a really powerful way that affects people and magnetizes them towards you, the impactful storytelling program is right for you, and I will put the link for you down below. There are 2 bonuses. One is my She Rise Live event in Portland, Oregon. It's a conscious business growth immersion 2-day event. So incredibly valuable. We're going to be doing live storytelling along with human design. We have a fashion consultant coming in. We're doing money structure growth. It's going to rock your world, and you actually get that free when you enroll in impactful storytelling. You can also head over to the link I drop below for you because the tickets are on flash sale right now. So if you want to just come to the event, I highly recommend that as well. Thank you so much for being here, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the live event or the impactful storytelling program, and I'll speak to you soon. Remember, when you move, everything moves.